Pattaya City Expats Club is a non-profit social organisation and our speakers are volunteers. The club as such assumes no responsibility or liability for the professional reputation of or the quality of services provided by the speaker today.
That is like so gorgeous. And they're really, my impression of them is that they're a really bright group of young kids and stuff. They work, and John and Angie work very closely with Hand to Hand and some of the other organisations. And afterwards you might like to go outside and make a donation as you're leaving and having your photo taken with the kids, and here they come. I'm about to look very uncute now compared to them.
Sally.
Stuart gonna help to take photos. Masih beda.
Hãy subscribe cho kênh Ghiền Mì Gõ để không bỏ lỡ
างนี้ลูกทางนี้
เ so ไปกินได้ไปกินอาหารได้ You now they go eat now ไปอาหารชอบได้
Hi guys, we just met 25 of the 67 children we have at Grace Family Resource Center in Cowboy. So they're very excited to be able to come and join us here today. Actually, they arrived at the center this morning at 7 o'clock to start the makeup procedures and getting ready. So it's a big day for them. We have a shuttle van and a couple of us have SUVs, and so as we were traveling in this morning, I had a few of the kids in the car with me, and as we came and approached Beach Road, that gasp from some of the children of, "Delay!" And I'm like, oh my gosh, you live 15 minutes from here, and you just don't get to see it. So this is a big deal for them, and so thank you so much for having them and having us. My name is Angie Sullivan. This is the best part of me, and this is John Sullivan, okay? And he's gonna start a little bit about this, and then I'll kind of jump in along the way, but Dr. Sullivan, take it on.
Hey guys, my name is John, and Angie and I are the co-founders of Grace. We're actually known as the Global Relief Association for Crisis and Emergencies. That's a mouthful. And
Closer.
Closer.
Yeah, thank you.
Like I'm eating ice cream, right?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, we started. That's what we're known as in the U.S. And of course, the acrostic is Grace. And so we're known as Grace International Foundation Thailand. And we actually started this whole process back in 2012, and recognizing that human trafficking was an issue all over the world. In fact, my research showed, and other research has also showed, that it's a problem in every country in the world. Every country around the world deals with trafficking in some shape, form, or fashion. So we were seeing this, and then we had the opportunity to come to Thailand back in January of 2013. And from that one trip and being introduced to some people and some of the problems, we knew exactly where we kind of needed to kind of sit down and approach this problem. And so that all started back in 2013, and we started back in those days with a child sponsorship program with 26 children in the program. But this is us, and like I said, we've been at this now for, how long is that, 6, 7 years?
He married me from high school. We started dating, and I know there'll be a gasp. I was almost 16 years old. All right, we were high school sweethearts, and we have been in this work, even in America, of serving the underserved since we were in our early 20s. So,
And in the traveling that I was able to do as we were starting this work and just exploring and looking at even at different countries, I was accused of being a trafficker in Peru several years ago. We were out in a little village in southern Peru, a community of about 3,000 people. It's way up in the Andes Mountains, very remote place. We were out there just exploring some things and talking with people in the community and talking with some of the kids that were there in the community. We had an event that weekend that we were promoting, and so we were talking with some of the teenagers out in the plaza. And one of the mothers comes running up to me. She is screaming. I have no idea what she's saying, but I know she is very upset with me. She is speaking Quechua, the Quechua language, and the guys I was with told me that she was saying that the kids needed to get away from me. I was a very bad man. I just wanted to take them to America to sell them. And so this was Lampa, Peru, just a small little village up in the Andes Mountains, and they had some kind of experience with trafficking, kidnapping, these types of things. And so just seeing the fear and the terror and the hurt in her eyes, in that mother's eyes, back so many years ago, that really, in a lot of ways, humanized the problem. Because, you know, you hear about things, you hear the news, you read articles about things that are going on in the world. That was really the first time that it was really humanized to me. So, anything else with that? Okay. And this is what we're known as. This is the charity in the U.S., Global Relief Association of Crisis and Emergencies, acronym GRACE. Anything? Okay. And just to get us up to speed, I get asked this a great deal. What is human trafficking? What is this? And isn't this something that's kind of contained? But Homeland Security out of the U.S., the FBI, the TIPS report from the State Department actually defines human trafficking as modern-day slavery. It involves the use of force, fraud, coercion to obtain some type of labor or commercial sex act. And so that's the definition of it, and that's where we started as really an organization. And in the different countries around the world, it takes on different faces, and it's very complex and complicated of how it happens and how it develops. But that's the reason we're here with these children, because we identified, even on that first trip, so many of these children were at risk of being exploited in some fashion.
And just to make a point here, John, if you'll go back to the definition, a lot of people have misinterpreted the definition of human trafficking, that if a woman chooses to be in the sex industry, then she's trafficked. That is not true. Okay, and you may hear even other NGOs and organizations try to use that as a reason to for the work that they're doing. But just to make a point, there's labor and sex industry, but the main point of this is that they have been forced, fraud, or coerced into this. So it can be any labor. John will go into that, but just because one chooses to work in the industry of the sex industry does not mean they are trafficked. Okay, so we want to make that clear. If you hear that, you have a reason to say, wait, the definition is that they've been forced into it. You know, maybe somebody was persuaded and they took their passport and didn't let them go anymore, and then they were forced into that. Usually that's in places where it's not open, okay? But just to kind of give you an idea about that.
Like we said, it looks different, and there's different means, different ways, from just real quickly, child abduction to and just what we've had experience with already in just the past 3 years, forced marriage, selling a baby, what's another one?
The forced child beggar.
Yeah, child beggar.
And then the forced prostitution. And I can touch on these just for a moment. Okay, so we are established here in Pattaya, and then we opened in the past year a prevention center at the gateway of Isan, the city of Nakhon Ratchasima. Most of us know it as Karat. In Karat, we have 40 plus children right now. But we opened in August of last year. Within the first 2 months, we identified a 12-year-old who was taken out of school by her parents and placed into a bar and be trafficked. So there were people making money off of her being in the bar, and the parents were getting a small amount. Most of the children in this particular community that we bring in, they live along the railroad, and they have no running water, no electricity, and it's about 35 families that live in that neighborhood. She's 12 years old, and we learned that she was put into the bar work by her parents because they weren't going to be able to receive money from the traffickers. Thanks to the TICAC, and TICAC is the Thailand Internet Crimes Against Children Division of the Royal Thai Police. They intervened, set up a sting operation, worked with the local police there, and within 4 weeks, she was rescued as a staged setting in a hotel, was going to trade $50 US for her virginity. Okay, so she's now, I mean, she was placed into a shelter. Parents are still getting a kickback because now the traffickers are in prison and they're having to pay the parents. Okay, so as you can see, some things are kind of messed up with this whole situation. They did not receive any, I guess, any punishment or any payback because they were actually the ones who put their child in there. The forced marriage, a 14-year-old girl, she turned 14 on July the 17th, and on the first weekend in August, they married her off to another Thai man somewhere else in the province, and immediately she became the domestic servitude of the mother-in-law. So no more school, and now you're a slave in our home. So those are 5 hours down the road, okay? And a lot of this stuff happens here too. The selling of a baby. We had a mom. She's got 3 children in her program now, and she became pregnant. Well, first she took a little trip to Vietnam, okay? And she went by herself, which was very unusual. But then she came back and she's pregnant, and she carries the baby here, and at the 7th month they flew her back to Vietnam, all for her to be able to get 300,000 baht for the baby. So it happens, and that's the way she supported her family then. And with that kind of salary, it supports them for a long time. So those things are happening. Child beggars, I mean, you can walk out on the street today and see them. So a little bit about what our experience has been here.
We've seen this in other countries.
Yeah,
So.
it's everywhere, but we're focusing on Thailand.
And that's our mission statement as an organization. We exist to foster social change through strengthening families and eradicating the vulnerabilities, human trafficking, exploitation. The 2 really major vulnerabilities that we have identified is, of course, poverty and illiteracy.
We know that we will not eradicate human trafficking, and that's not what our mission statement says. And that would be an unrealistic goal, because as long as you have humanity, you're going to have good and bad people, right? And so there are going to be bad people to take advantage of good people, or underserved or underprivileged people. Our goal is the eradicating the vulnerabilities, and like John mentioned, the illiteracy and the poverty. And these are generational illiteracy and generational poverty. Those are the ones that we reach out to. Okay, so it takes us into Grace International Foundation in Thailand. This is our name in Thailand for our foundation. And why Thailand? John's mentioned a little bit, of course, with our experience, and then I'll let him do the
just our experience, and then just some of the statistics that we come across, which were kind of staggering to me. More than 1.3 million children ages 5 to 14 do not go to school in Thailand. That was pulled from several different sources, human trafficking research centers, and independent studies just as well. And because Thailand is a source destination and transit country for trafficking and exploitation, like many other countries are just as well. Okay?
Okay, this takes it to a little bit of where I'm going to share. So what do we do here? Well, we started with a child sponsorship program 6 years ago, where we identified 26 children who were from, I call it substandard housing, okay? The communities, a lot of people refer to them as slum communities. But they're living in substandard housing. Parents were working, sometimes day labor, getting paid per day. And we identified a place that was actually taking these children in for daycare. So at least they were not being left in the slums while mom and dad were able to go and work. The tough part was that there was no one to care for the kids if mom and dad were at work. And so this particular group opened it up to have low income rates for the children. So they were like 30 baht a day and we'll watch your kid kind of thing, maybe up to 60, depending on how well the parents were doing. So we started a child sponsorship program because we learned that these 12-year-olds that were in their setting were not in school because parents could not afford tuition, backpacks, 5 uniforms, the supplies for school. book deposits to, to be able to rent the books from the school, and did not qualify for the scholarships through the temples because that carries a lot more with it. But we got the kids in school, and so we identified them in January of 2013. In May, we put 26 of the kids in school when school started. So for a lot of these children, they were already 3 and 4 years behind their peers in school. And so for 3 years, we kind of flew back and forth from Atlanta and would come in and check on things. And we had some people here that had volunteered to help. And all the while, John's saying we've got to do more than just putting them in school. The other thing we were providing was nutritional support for their families. And so we, through 6 times throughout the year, we give them enough supplies for 2 months at a time. This is rice, cooking oil, fish sauce, oyster sauce, so that it would not be a reason for them to sell their child or to have their child begging for a meal. At least the basics were taken care of. We knew it needed to be more. We had the vision of the Family Resource Center where we actually brought them in and helped them with their educational, nutritional, and health and wellness support. I came in on one of those trips from America and immediately saw the dental hygiene issues. The oral hygiene was so poor. And my background is 28 years of healthcare in the cardiology field. And so with that, I know what happens if your mouth is not taken care of. You get infections throughout your body. It's linked to so many health issues. But for me, it was seeing those valves just tear apart and just become necrotic and just fall to pieces. And there's not a lot you can do about that, but you can definitely prevent it. And so we started the dental hygiene initiative then. And I would just bring supplies in because teams in America, what can we do to help you guys? If you'll just make a Ziploc bag and put a toothbrush, toothpaste, mouthwash, and dental floss in it, at least I can get these into their hands, because when you're poor, that is a luxury. Okay, so we were able to bring in dental bags and start teaching a little bit about the dental health. So every time the families get a food set every 2 months, they also get new dental supplies. A couple of times a year, we now provide hygiene bags too for the family. So, big bottles of shampoo, different stuff. So there's a lot of ways that if you're thinking about, well, how can I help this? These supplies and donating these supplies or giving money to buy these supplies are big help. We opened the Family Resource Center in January, on January the 1st of 2017. We moved here actually exactly 3 years ago today. We landed in Pattaya, Thailand. So we moved here permanently and worked on the foundation status, and then we opened the center here in Khao Noi. So it's on the dark side of Pattaya. But we went into an area where we service, actually the kids come from 8 different schools, and we shuttle them from school to the center in the afternoons. We provide homework help. They walk in the door, and that's the first thing they learn is that they're going to get homework help from our Thai staff. We provide the homework help. We provide English language skills, and that's with native English speakers. We did a little trial with a couple of non-native English teachers, and it diminished quite quickly. So we went back to a native English teacher with that. But they have English language, homework help, and then we have a lot of fun there because we want to build them up. We opened a center in Karata, I mentioned that earlier. The future is there are 4 places waiting for us in Isan just to say yes, and that's Chayapum, Konkan, Udon Thani, and the other one just left me. But you can see over the next couple of years we're going to be busy with this. Next slide. I think I may have gotten ahead of myself a little bit there. Nutritional support, health and wellness. Beyond the dental care now, when we opened the Family Resource Center, we started providing the treatments for conjunctivitis, lice, the fevers, and the different things. As a child needed medical care, even though they may have that Thai ID medical card, they can get their health care for 30 baht, which is great. But what about the medication? Because then they end up having to pay for that a lot, and then clinic visits would cost. Sometimes if you needed a specialist, it was even more. So we actually cover, if a child's hospitalized, we actually give the family 1,000 baht so that when mom and dad are missing work, it helps to, offset the cost of that. But also, when they're in a hospital, they've got to buy food for them and the patient. So a few of those things we learned. The health also, we connected with an eye clinic here and set our children up for eye exams. At that point, we had 70 children at the center. One had an eye exam. And their ages 4 to 13. And so we connected with him, and he was very gracious to come and do screenings for our children. So he did the eye screenings on site at the center, and then he took 12 children to his shop on Pattaya Klang. Pattaya Optical, by the way, if you want to support his business. He's very good. And he provided for the children then, those who needed glasses, for 700 baht per pair. And so, just tremendous gift, for them. So now you saw some of our children with eyeglasses. They, this is where parents just were so grateful because they could not afford for their kids to have their eyes checked. It's such a luxury. One child's eyes was like you know how you get your reading glasses, you may need that minus 1.50. We had a kid with a minus 6. So, the reading glasses just wasn't enough to cut it. Then we had the educational scholarships. We do that in May every year, where we put the kids, we actually reimburse, okay? We don't just give money for that, we reimburse receipts. But what about those who may not have the money to physically go and take care of it personally and be reimbursed? We have a tremendous director and staff that will go to the school with the parents and take care of it, okay? So the children's educational scholarships paid for in May every year, and then the access to our family resource centers at no cost to them provides them Monday through Thursday after school program, and when they are on summer break, they do day camp from 7:30 to 5, Monday through Friday. So it's a full year program. It is a formal program. During day camp, we touch on subjects like mathematics, science, reading, Thai language, English language, dance, puzzles, problem-solving skills, those type of things. Next. Okay, so homework help, we'll just go through these pictures. I mentioned it already. So they come in and they have homework help. And when we first opened, kids are like, no, I don't have. And about day 3, I'm like, you never have homework? Okay, let me see your journal. And of course, you would see a journal with red X's because the children haven't been doing their homework. So they learned real quick that, you couldn't get one over on this old woman. So we check homework every day. If they say they don't have it, we still check their books to see that they finished their work. And some of them are now finishing their work at school. But we also were introduced to this terrible concept of the my die, I cannot, just defeated. And so we introduced them to the concept of positive thinking. You can, but you've got to know that you can. I know you can. I'm giving you resources to help you to say that you can. So they learn pretty quickly. English language, we provide activities around it. We get about an hour of English language skills every day that they're there. Nutritional meals, when they're there during day camp, we have a tremendous cook. One of our moms, by the way, we hire moms and dads, okay, so we put them to work. But one of our moms is just awesome. She went through our adult enrichment class for financial management, because we provide classes for their parents and guardians too. But financial management class, and she came out saying, I've always just wanted to be able to get paid enough to cook, to be able to open a restaurant one day maybe. And she was actually working in a little cafe at the time, but then we had an opening at Grace, and she came in, and she provides all of the nutrition for them. So, she takes care of it. And I would put her up against any Thai restaurant. She's incredible. But the kids get a good nutritional meal for breakfast and lunch, and then when they come in after school, they get a good snack. And often, when there's been leftovers, they're shared, and you go out with the families. The confidence building activities, just this week, this was really touching. On Wednesday, the smaller children go to nap immediately after lunch, but the older children have a time of journaling or quiet work. And on Wednesday, they were challenged to draw a picture of grace and then just write what grace means to you. What do you think about this whole thing? And two of the children specifically, one girl wrote, before coming to Grace, and she's been in our program now for about 8 months, before coming to Grace, I was extremely too shy to speak up, to read in front of my class, but after coming to Grace, they've encouraged me, and I have confidence now to do that. And then there was a little boy who was in the same way, thought that people would look at him and think less of him if he participated, so he just stayed quiet. But now he knows that when he participates, that he can, and he's actually, that other kids like him. Most of the children wrote about Grace being family to them. They have friends, they have family. We've got a little boy that's autistic, and he is quite a challenge some days, right? As far as his behavior. And he's 11 years old, and he's learned in the past year how to kind of adapt his behavior. But some of the kids get aggravated with it. And on this day, he wrote, they love me. And as he was sharing, kids came up to him and saying, yes, because you're our brother. And so, it's just it's a different kind of place. Okay.
Okay.
Where is she?
She's right here. Come here, Mom.
I told her, I said, he won't bring you up on the stage.
Oh, you told her that? Sorry. Come on, Mike. Now, Angie and I, of course, founded Grace, but this is Mai, and she is our chairman of the board of directors and the director of the Family Resource Center. So she is Grace in Thailand. I do not know what we would do without her. She speaks English, of course, and Thai, and she has, I can't imagine doing this without her.
Oh, no, and guys, her husband, Chan, is a photographer. He's also on our board here in Thailand. So, Chan, thank you so much. He's going to be sharing pictures with Ren. But they are incredible. We have another couple in Karat who have joined our board. And so, John and I are those Farons who are like, yes, I know I can get this process faster with the foundation if I don't have a Farong on it. But you can take as long as you want because we're going to be on this board. Kind of mentality. But yes, absolutely. Praises to my.
This is just some of our staff.
You met them this morning. They brought the kids in. They got them going. They're the ones who teach them the music. I can't do that. You guys want to see me dance, right? Okay.
Okay, and so what we're doing, what we've seen in the last 3 years is working. We've seen it in their test scores at school, improve test scores. Some of the kids, we can carry on a little bit of a conversation with us in English. They could not do any of that, of course, 3 years ago. So they're picking up some of that. And they're dreaming about the possibilities. That was something that was so interesting to me when we first started this. These kids, for whatever reason, they didn't dream. They didn't dream about tomorrow. They didn't dream about what could happen, what they could be, but now they are. Now they're talking about that. Now they're talking about going to a university or a trade school or being a teacher or being a doctor or whatever. Just all kind of things that they're talking about now. So this thing is working. Okay? How about getting involved? How you get involved?
So we have several ways to get involved, and please visit our website and we'll give you that information. But sponsoring a child, the entire program is for each child is $100 US per month, so it's $1,200 US a year. That covers absolutely everything, including if their parents come to the classes. Becoming a friend of Grace.
We do have a half sponsorship.
Oh yes, that's true. We have an option where you can share a sponsorship with another person. It'd be $50 a month, and then 2 sponsors per child. But full sponsorship per child is $100. Friends of Grace is a undesignated gift that just covers all the activities of Grace, and we have people to give $5 a month. We have people to give $1,000 a month. So Friends of Grace is just an option that goes into undesignated funds. And a Grace Ambassador is a person who's actually come into our center, volunteered, and somehow donate, financially support our work, and then they speak on our behalf. So we have 8 Grace Ambassadors in America that can actually go and share in civic organizations and clubs and churches and different places where they open up the doors to hear about it. And then, of course, volunteering, and the options are huge here. It could be coming together and putting together dental bags or hygiene bags. It could be laminating English language lessons. It could be reading to the kids, because we read to them also in English, and get them to start with their little translation mind. And then this is the fun part. These are just pictures. So we connect them in the community. We like to have community come in to meet them, and then we like getting them out in the community. A local bakery had all the children come during October's fall break, and the kids got to make sugar cookies, homemade sugar cookies. And interesting enough, they didn't hoard them for themselves. They got back to the center and they shared them with everybody. So we had 6 groups of 10 kids to go there. And then they performed in a community event this past November. Next. Oh, Santa came. Santa, aka Kunjan. We have a toy drive at Christmas. And this was the first year that we actually did a Christmas wish list. And this was actually an eye-opener. So in America, kids know this wish list, and they start it like in August, okay? You're with me on that. But here, during their October break from school, we're like, hey guys, here's a list. What I want, what I need, what I'd like to wear, what I would like to read, my favorite color, game, etc. Okay, so about 10 questions on the little survey that they completed. And on the bottom of it said, what I'd really love to have. I have a friend in America who's a school teacher who did the same thing. We compared our results, okay? And in this setting where you've got kids who, they want more school supplies, they want shoes, they want a new dress. They would really love if their parents would not fight with one another. They would really love if they were able to have more friends. It was all very intimate, relational in their results. In America, I'd really love to have that iPhone X. I'd really love to have the latest model of the PC that, they've got that new, iPad Air? Yeah, let's do that. The $300 pair of shoes. So it just shows you a little bit of the difference. And when we compare the results, what these children, were saying, but this was what was heart-wrenching to me, is that we had 6 children to say, I'd really love if what I wrote on this list was true, became true. That I would get that pair of shoes, or I would get, a Barbie doll. And so we went to America at the end of November, and I was there through December, first time we've done that since we moved here. And John and I got the flu on the airplane going over. They just say hallelujah. Oh my gosh, it was horrible. And so the 8 speaking engagements we had planned, we had to cancel. But what it did for me is it put me in front of the computer, because I'm a workaholic, and I built this toy drive based off of the wish list, and I built an Amazon wish list for Grace for the kids, specific to their request. Sent it out, and within 2 weeks we had $4,000 worth of toys sent in to us, and we brought them over. Don't tell customs. We brought them over from America, and were able to give these kids things on their list. They were shocked. And of course Santa came, first time most of them had ever seen Santa Claus. Even the optician that I mentioned earlier, the guy that owns the optician shop, he was there with his son. He leans in to John and says, I've never had this moment. He wanted a picture. So, with the things that we, they're just different in culture. And then, last month, couple of weeks ago. They had their very first parade, and so they got to run through the St. Patrick's Day parade. That's why some of them had green and orange today, because we had ribbons left over. You saw that? Okay, so any of you Irish in here, they really loved this. They learned a lot about Ireland during that week, and had a lot of fun.
And that's just our contact information. This has just kind of been a flyover. We've come a long way, Ren, in 3 years. Long way. And we're just really looking forward to the next 3 years to see where we are at.
I do want to put a plug in real quick. We've talked about what we're doing here with the children, but John is a professional counselor from America, so marriage and family, vicarious trauma, all of the aspects of counseling, and then he also has his PhD in human services relative to human trafficking. So there's some internal research as how we know best practices, what's effective, and he works with other organizations to determine those. So if you're a data geek and you just like to do anybody like statistics?
Nope.
No. God, yeah, do you like statistics? The research is actually, you've got to have somebody that really likes crunching those numbers and making them work, right? So, we have opportunities now to build a team of research to actually have accurate and credible data. Because I promise you, any data you read about human trafficking is going to say there's anywhere from 30 to 45 billion dollars used in this industry. 30 to 45 billion dollars a year. That's a huge difference, okay? I mean, for us, it's like $1 billion. It doesn't matter if it's 1 or 100, right? It's still a lot. But the difference between 30 billion and 45 billion is a joke if you're talking about statistics, because it's too far of a gap. Also, the number of people. They'll say stats here in Thailand. They'll say anywhere from 2,000 to 2 million people are involved in human trafficking. Okay, so we need credible data. Same in the U.S. You just can't trust the numbers because everything is what I call a guesstimation. Okay. And in the final slide, we have cards. We have business cards. I also have some brochures with me if anybody wants a brochure. Please visit our website. And I think Rand's probably got that publicized for us already, right? Thank you so much, Kakanka. Guys, thank you so much, and we appreciate the hospitality for welcoming us and our faithful children. And please connect if you desire.
Are there any questions, please?
Questions? Okay.
We're going to say something, Stuart, aren't you?
Yes, okay.
Good morning. I would like to know what your association still is with the United States, how closely you're associated with the United States. And secondly, how do you justify your cost base with regards to running the organisation here?
Our connection to the U.S. is that we are a 501c3 charity, and most of the funds come from the U.S., 98% of them. And so as people give in the U.S., they give to Global Relief Association, which is a 501c3, tax deductible for them. We also have an avenue where now we are on a global tax deduction, so people can give through global giving, and regardless of their country, and most countries are part of that, they are able to give, and it count in their country as a tax deduction. As far as the cost, here, of course, we just send the money. We have a little bit of donations from Thailand, maybe about 2%. And then that 98% is coming from the U.S. Child sponsors, we have 104 in the program. Of those, 50 children have no sponsor whatsoever, and 24 of the remaining 54 have partial sponsorship. So that doesn't cover it, because the cost would be for all of these 104 children, so it's over $10,000 a month. It's when the Friends of Grace, that undesignated fund, it covers for that. And it makes up the difference for the cost of the program. Our cost for the per child is $140 It actually was $103.80 last year per child, but we only seek sponsor, per month. We seek the sponsorship. Cost analysis, we, some days it's much more beneficial here in Thailand as far as what some of the costs are for, like we have a 3-bedroom house here that we rent. We need a larger space with land. We don't have that right now, but we are also in a house that we were able to rent for $12,000 a month. But we know that the next level where we need to go with this to have the location we need is going to cost at least 7 times that. And in everything that we're looking at, as soon as they learn that Americans are on the backside of this, the costs are going up 7-fold. So, yeah, right? And so that's where we are actually considering the low-cost options of maybe long-term rentals on property that we can build for like and have for like 10-year property. But it takes everything that comes in right now to go into this program. So much so that there are grants available that we've checked into and we've applied for some of them. But there are very few grants that cover the work in Thailand. So the foundation status here in Thailand will open the door too, because we have to apply then for different levels of fundraising, and then you have to apply if you want to apply for grants and stuff. But that's definitely in our work. Did that answer your question? Okay. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Did I understand you to say that the majority of your money comes from America?
Yes.
Okay. Just because you're American, is that why? Okay.
Right, it's
because
our connections.
you don't get any from the UK, or you don't get any from Germany, or anything like that?
Not yet.
And why?
Not yet.
Not yet, because we don't know anybody there. Honestly, it's pure, okay, good. Nice
Too
to meet
bad.
you. Good,
He
nice
just
to meet
got
you.
He's got a lot of money, yeah.
John has often said that, you know, there are 3 reasons why a business or an NGO is successful. 1 is that you know your purpose, okay? 2 is that you have connections, and 3, you're credible. Right now, our connections are like, it's expanding, and it has over the past 3 years since we've been here. We're now not only in the state of Georgia, but we are on the entire east coast of Georgia. So we've seen some growth there. Yeah, of the U.S., from Connecticut down to Alabama.
So I'm from America, so you don't need any money from me.
I do.
Oh,
I do. Yes, I do need your money because we just passed, our board just passed a budget of almost $500,000 US to get us to these next levels.
So just see me outside the door.
yeah. We've been hearing on the news a lot, you talk about human trafficking, and it breaks my heart. But they said that the drug dealers are doing the human trafficking because it's more money and they don't have to smuggle anything. They just walk the people in.
Exactly, and you've got
Sell
your
a drug one
resource.
time.
Yeah, you sell a drug one time, it's used, you have to buy more to have a supply.
Yeah.
You can sell a child or a woman
Over and over.
10 times a night. Okay, the life expectancy of the person when they've been truly trafficked is less than 7 years. I mean, the stats get really hard. And Atlanta, Georgia is a hub in America for it as well. And there are great organizations working there in Atlanta. But also, what's missing in a lot of this is the true awareness, so that you can pick up the symptoms of who's trafficked and who's not.
We really concentrated on the prevention end of it. Our kind of mantra thinking is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's an old saying from years ago, but it's easier to set a child in the right direction than to try to recover an adult who has been through whatever.
John has done counseling on women who have been trafficked to Pattaya from around the world. And he has been on the counseling side of that. And there's a lot to say in preventing, because once these women or men are trafficked, their mind actually starts dividing to separate them from reality when they're in that setting. And what often happens with that is disease of the mind. And they end up being institutionalized or maybe even committing suicide sometimes. So prevention has a much greater success. Of course, we've got friends and colleagues in the various areas of human trafficking, rescue, rehabilitation, maybe given occupation or vocational training. But with us, they kind of look at us and say, oh, you're just prevention. You know, and we're like, yeah, that's right, just prevention, you know, because if we can prevent it, then they're able to break the cycle of illiteracy in their family, and they're able to break the cycle of poverty in their family. Because our plan is to carry these kids through university. University in Thailand is not expensive. The same sponsors that are sponsoring them from kindergarten can sponsor them through university. We don't send them out. If mom and dad finally get a good job and they're able to move out of the slum or move out of that one-room apartment that they all live in to a two-bedroom house, great. Yes, you can continue to stay here, because you know what happens? We've got a couple of moms now that when they get the scholarship for the child to reimburse, they say, give it back. Okay, you give us food, okay, there's somebody else here in need. So it only pays forward then.
May I just remind you, there's one question at a time, and should time permit, your second question will be welcome. I have a question here at the back, please.
Okay.
First, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation and for the job you're doing. And especially thank you for pointing out that this really is modern-day slavery. I really don't even like the term human trafficking. I think that's just a politically correct term. My question is, I wonder, all these fishing boats that we see out here, the green lights at night, I heard or saw a TV program one time that most of the people on working on those boats are really slaves. From Burma and so forth. And then recently somebody said, oh no, that's been taken care of, which I doubt. Is that still the case?
It's still the case.
Yeah, it's still the case. We call it window dressing, okay, and I'll give you, okay, let me give you just an ounce of why we know it's window dressing, is because they'll put it in the Bangkok Post, they'll publicize that they're doing it. But then we know the people who are in the meetings when they're being graded for their annual human trafficking tier. There's 4 levels. Tier 1 means that you are aware of your problem and you are prosecuting these people and you're making legislation, you're doing it. Tier 2, maybe you're doing some, but you could do it more. Tier 2 watch list, why they call it that, I don't know, is that you have a problem, but you're really not doing anything about it, but you know it. Level 3 is, you've got a major problem, you don't care. Thailand, 3 years ago, was on 2-tier watch lists. 2 years ago, they remained at Tier 2 watch list, but here's what just really, well, you live in Thailand. The UN representatives and the US Secretary of State representatives and the Thailand authorities were sitting at a table with one of our friends that's a leader of a collaborative action from Bangkok. And they were given the information from the local NGOs that they research and their results from the various arrests and the laws that they're making. And I know this video. Okay. A brown envelope went across the table and asked, can we at least get to Tier 2? And of course they said, no, you've got to make this happen. Last year it happened. And they are making strides in this. Yes, there are people on fishing boats that are trafficked in. They are modern day slaves. And a lot of times, they exploited them completely. Margaret won't walk into Terminal 21 to shop. And I agree. Because until some of this starts saying, hey, wait, guys, time out on some of this stuff. You know, you just got to be careful. Yeah, but we're never going to stop it. That's the thing. We can only prevent it, and the only way to prevent it is that we break the cycle for the generational poverty and illiteracy. And that's what we are all working together to do.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Very informative presentation. I just wondered, says how many NGOs are there in Pattaya that sort of involved in this? And also, I'm asking from perspective when I lived in America. In Houston Post and Chronicle says if you want to volunteer, they would give free ad space and list all different, organizations, brothers and whatever that they have.
We have Hand to Hand. Father Ray is a foundation here that, in a different aspect, they take care of children who've been abandoned. And so at least they're not on the streets anymore begging, right? There's an organization called Tamar Center, and they actually go into the bars and do what they call bar outreach, and they give women and men, well no, only women. They give women an option. If you don't want to do the sex industry work anymore, we can train you to be a cosmetologist, train you in sewing where you can make scarves and sell them, but, train you in bakery. So they give them those options. And they have about 40 people to go through their program every year. Sheer Love is another, and they concentrate directly on barbering and haircuts, but they go into the bars and they solicit those who are already in the sex industry with an option to come out. Men and women. There's a couple of Thai organizations, Human Health Network, which is attached to Father Ray in a sense. They're doing much of the same kind of work.
They're detached from Father Ray.
Detached. Oh, they're detached now. Okay. Were they like at one point, or maybe she just worked with them in the past? Oh, okay. Thank you. And then there's Mercy Pattaya is a group of Christians that go in, and they actually go into the slum residents, and they hold one day a week. They'll do activities with the kids and family and do benevolence and give to them. And then there is Pattaya Slum Ministry, which does the same. They go in once a week to different camps in slum areas and take food and play games with the kids. But as far as a concentrated effort to teach them to be alert about trafficking and stuff, it's just non-existent.
Is there some kind of list you can go to the computer?
There is not. That's what's crazy. Because I'm like you. Yeah, in the state of Georgia, you can look up registered NGOs, and there's not anything like that here.
Maybe that's something somebody here with computer skills might like to start up.
That'd
Well,
be good.
just a huge thank you for John and Angie and the work they do. Those who were here when hand-to-hand performed in November, all right, quite a few. One of the points I made about hand-to-hand people like this is I came to an understanding that what they do is they raise people up to the point where they can have a dream that they can go after. And this is again the thing that emerged from here, is that without organisations like this, the kids aren't raised up to the stage where we could actually form a dream and go after that dream. So All right, we've got to take a photo of this for you guys. Just turn up this. Could you hold it? It's not mine. And thank you.